What's going on, guys? I'm here today with a product review of the LevelHike Sega Saturn HDMI cable. Now, the guys that made this, they approached me, they wanted me to take a look at it and give an honest review of it, and that's what you're about to get. And I tried to look at this as entry-level upscaling for modern HD TVs for those of you that are not looking to spend a ton of money. Now, there are devices out there that will already do this type of thing. For instance, this is an RGB SCART to HDMI upscaler right here. This little box is about $35. You still need an RGB SCART cable for the Sega Saturn to work with this guy right here. And that's sort of what drew me to this one, because everything for the Sega Saturn is right in the box. So for $29.99, you get entry-level upscaling for the Sega Saturn, everything included that you need. We're going to take a look at it, we're going to compare it to this guy here, and we're going to compare it to the Framemeister so you can see the difference between entry level and something that costs hundreds of dollars. I hope you guys enjoy the review of the LevelHike Sega Saturn HDMI cable. Alright guys, the first thing we're going to do here is go over what's in the box. First, you get the LevelHike HDMI cable itself, which is a little box, and as you can see, it has the 4-3 16:9 switch on it that really helps out a device like this. Most of the cheaper devices do not have this, and it's a great addition here. Really too, because there's a couple of Sega Saturn games that actually will run in 16:9, which means having the switch keeps compatibility with those games while retaining the 4:3 aspect ratio that dominates the Saturn's library. You also get a micro USB power cable for it. This does unfortunately require a separate power source. Most modern televisions do have a USB port on them. This does not seem to draw a lot of power, so you can just plug it into there and it should be okay. You also get a full-on HDMI cable right here in the box, which gives you absolutely everything you need for 720p upscaling for the Sega Saturn. I want to make sure to tell you that I am not in any way altering these pictures in post-processing and editing. I am actually showing you this completely straight. This is untouched, no contrast or brightness adjustments whatsoever. This is exactly what this looks like as captured on my Elgato capture device. And that's another thing that's important, because the 720p output allows you to plug a Saturn straight into a game capture card like the Elgato, which a lot of you guys know the modern variants of the Elgato does not support lower than 720p. The device must output 720p for the Elgato to even pick the damn thing up. So this is good, or this would be a good cheap starter unit for a brand new YouTuber just to get his gameplay on the screen. You know, baby steps, guys. This is how I started. I started out with a very cheap upscaler device for my stuff too, you know. I mean, I didn't have a lot of money to spend on a Framemeister there in the beginning, so it's nice to have an alternative like this now, because I would have bought this when I first started had it been available. Now, the first game that I want to show you is Street Fighter 2, and the reason I want to show you this game is because I want to show you the 2D performance. I want you to see what the image quality is like. I want you to see that the image does have a slight blur to it. I want you to see that when things are fast moving, you do get that sort of almost, I mean, I don't really want to call it ghosting, but just the image loses its sharpness, so to speak. And you'll see this again when I show you a few other games, but I just want to show it to you, let you get a feel for what this image is. Now, by comparison, guys, with that said, I want to show you what Street Fighter 2 looks like on a Framemeister. Now, the first thing you're going to notice between these two is how much sharper it is on a Framemeister. And that's the difference between entry-level upscaling and upscaling that's going to cost you a few $100s. Now, as you can see, the Framemeister is razor sharp, everything, the color looks good. And just switching back here to the LevelHike, you're going to notice that things are a little blurrier. You're going to notice you're getting sort of an image ghosting when the screen or the sprites move around really fast. That's sort of the difference between the two units. Now, I do believe the LevelHike still looks quite a bit better than composite does on an HD television or on most HD televisions, so this is sort of the trade-off that you're making here for the low price. Now I want to move on through some more games here just to give you an idea of what the game looks like with the LevelHike. This right here is one of my favorite shooters on the Sega Saturn. It's Shinryu. I think this is just an awesome graphical showpiece for the Saturn, and this is what it looks like with the LevelHike HDMI cable. Lag is often a big issue with upscalers. I mean, you can usually feel it a little bit. One thing that I'm pretty happy with the LevelHike is I haven't really noticed any game-crushing lag that's been introduced with it. And some of the cheaper devices, I really can't say that. Now, granted, I am hooking this to a PC monitor, so I'm not usually introducing some of the lower end HD TV post-processing lag that you may get with this thing, but as it stands, hooked to this monitor right here, right now, I'm able to play this game without too much trouble. I'm not noticing, like I said, anything game-breaking that's keeping me from doing what I want to do. I didn't notice it in Street Fighter 02 either. Now the next game I want to show you is Thunder Force 3 from the Thunder Force Gold Pack 1. I wanted to show you this one because this one is a side-scroller, it's a horizontal shooter, and I just wanted to give you a feel for how it performs with this particular kind of game. Again, I noticed no game-breaking lag. I was able to play it fairly easily, didn't have any trouble at all defeating the stage. And I mean, again, $29.99, the image quality is not bad at all. I think the biggest thing that I'm noticing here is you're losing a little bit of detail in your color. You're losing a little bit of detail between the sprites and the backgrounds. You're not getting that nice separation where you're able to see every single edge perfectly sharp and clear with a more expensive device. Here things sort of run together a little more, they're a little blurrier around the edges, and that appears to be your biggest trade-off with this particular device. Now we're going to go ahead and move on. Let's use a big one. This is a really good game on the Saturn. It's one of my favorites, Virtua Fighter 2. This is with the LevelHike. Now one of the problems that I have with Virtua Fighter 2 on my FrameMeister is that it switches resolutions a lot. And I don't know if you guys have ever heard this, but when an upscaler like the FrameMeister gets hit with a resolution change in-game, the screen goes black for a few seconds, to as much as 10 seconds before the image comes back. Now that does not happen with the LevelHike cable. The LevelHike cable takes the change in resolution and keeps on getting it. No problem at all. You know, you really got to kind of appreciate that for such a cheap cable, because it is a real pain in the ass when games switch resolutions when you're using a FrameMeister, man, because the game can start and you not even know it. You're sitting there waiting for the damn screen to come back, and then you find out that you've lost 2 men in the process. You know, so that is a big deal in my opinion. I like that the LevelHike does not go black when it switches resolution. You can't even tell it's switching resolutions with the LevelHike cable. And for those of you that wanted to see the cheap RGB SCART to HDMI upscaler, here it is, stretching the image with no ability to change that. If you move on to 3D games that are more front-facing, where the screen is actually coming at you, you'll see in a game like Gun Griffin, the image quality is actually really good. I mean, I didn't have any problems at all playing Gun Griffin here. I thought Gun Griffin looked good. I mean, I didn't notice any particular blurring that bothered me. There was no lag that bothered me. And the same could be said for something like Sega Rally. Again, there was no lag that bothered me. I performed really well while I played it. The image held up, everything looked solid, and for the most part I was really happy with it, guys. I mean, as you can see on your screen here, the LevelHike doesn't look too terrible. So again, $30 cable. Some fast moving games are going to have more problems than games that are slower. You definitely need to take that into account, but for the most part, $30 is not too bad for the image quality that you're getting here. I still believe that this blows away basically your composite options on an HD TV. It just blows those out of the water. Alright guys, you've seen the video. What's the takeaway here? Well, the way I look at it is that for $29.99 you get everything you need in the box for 720p upscaling on a modern HD TV. Now you can buy devices that will do this, but you need extras here, and there are other caveats that are usually headaches. Number one, if you buy one of those cheap RGB to HDMI upscalers, you still have to buy that RGB SCART cable for the Sega Saturn. You don't have to do that with the LevelHike HDMI cable. And another thing is that a lot of those cheaper devices do not have the ability on the device to switch to the 4:3 aspect ratio, which is a big concern for those of you that have HD TVs that will not force the image down to 4:3. Now that makes this device attractive in my opinion at the price that it's at. You have to understand this is not a device that is a substitute for a PVM, a Retrotink, an OSSC, a FrameMeister, the more expensive ways to get a good image on your screen. That is not what this thing is targeting. This is targeting entry level. This is for you guys that want to spend the bare minimum to get a decent image on your HD TV. Most of the devices that I just mentioned blow this thing out of the water, as they should. They are more expensive. Even the Retrotink will cost more than 3 times this thing. So if you're looking for something cheap, if you're looking for something no hassle, and you're looking for something that looks better than composite on your HD TV, I think the LevelHike HDMI cable gets the job done. Now the biggest headache that this thing introduced to me was the left and right audio channels were switched. And that is a pain in the ass, man, because so many overseas companies seem to get this wrong. I don't know what the breakdown in communication is, but this is another device where the audio channels are switched. But this can be a really big headache in games that have great stereo separation, like fighting games, because when you have a fighter over here throwing a fireball, it actually sounds like he's over here, which is a big pain in the ass. But outside of that, guys, I do not think this is a bad product. I've had it connected for hours. I haven't had any trouble with it. It does require its own power source, and it does get a little bit warm. So don't stuff it in the back of your entertainment center and let that thing get super hot, because it may have some reliability problems if you do that. Definitely let this thing get some air, because it does warm up. Anyhow, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoy this kind of review. I'm thinking about doing it more often. I'm not sure. I guess I'll kind of wait and see what the reception of this one is. But anyway, I'm SegaLordX. Thank you guys for watching, and I will catch you next time.